Hi, Terry here and Belle from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is a fancy fold card. It's called a Miura fold, or sometimes a Miura Ori fold, and it's absolutely gorgeous. There is a triangular fold at the top and one at the bottom. I love this style of a card, it's so easy to make. I used the Boughs and Blossoms stamp set and paper from the Pattern Party Designer Series paper pack. Now this paper pack is available to our hosts and you can purchase it using your host rewards, and it's a fantastic price for 48 double-sided sheets. On one side you've got the black and white, and on the other side you've got really colourful papers, and I'm going to use the other side for my card today. Now on the back I've added a panel where you can write your message. So let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for all the elements required to create this project. So if you're interested in reproducing it, take a screenshot so you can refer to it later. I'm going to use Poppy Parade card as my base today. Now this sheet measures 12 inches by 6 inches, so it's half a sheet of 12 by 12. I'm going to place it into my simply scored board with the long side across the top and score down at 4 inches and 8 inches. I'm now going to make some additional score lines without the simply score board. On the first scored line that I've already made, I'm measuring 2 inches from the top edge and making a mark. And then on the second score line, I'll measure 2 inches up from the bottom edge and make a mark. I will need to score from the top left point down to my first mark, and then from the mark to the top of the second score line. And then on the baseline, I'm going from the bottom of the first score line to my second mark, and from there to the bottom right corner. Now you will see me make some additional pencil marks as I go. This is only because of the position I've got the camera in and the lights I'm using. It was very difficult to see the top and bottom of the score lines. So I just made a little pencil dot to make it stand out a bit better. And don't forget to erase any pencil marks that you've made. I can now fold on the score lines and burnish them with a bone folder. Now on my first straight score line, the bottom part is going to be a mountain fold and the top part within the triangle should be a valley fold, but to start off I'm going to make the whole thing a mountain. Similarly, for the second score line, the main part, the top part, needs to be a valley fold and the bottom part within the triangle needs to be a mountain, but initially it will all be folded as a valley fold. Then I can fold the bits within the triangle in the opposite direction. Now the main triangular section should be fairly easy to fold as long as you've made your score lines deep enough. You can see mine look quite crisp already. You just want to ease them into shape initially, and then concentrating on one at a time, you want to fold it properly and burnish it. So that's the top one, and now to repeat for the bottom one, you just want to ease it into shape and then it will fold naturally how you want it, and burnish. And that's all the scoring and folding complete. So that's the Miura fold. Now, of course, the card as it is will not stand, so that makes it very difficult to display it. So I'm going to add an additional piece on the back panel, and this will support that back panel and allow the card to be displayed. Now, you will see other people using a bigger piece for this, almost a complete card base in fact, but it isn't necessary, it's just what you prefer. So you can see mine, you will just see one triangular piece through the back panel, but if you use a whole card base, you will see that gap fully covered. I will add additional layers to this extra piece, and I've got a mat of Pool Party and then a mat of basic white. Now I'm not going to add these to the back panel just yet because I want to stamp on my white panel. This is the Boughs and Blossoms stamp set. Now I'll be using the A Little Hello sentiment as well as several of the other images today. The main ink pads I'm using are Poppy Parade, Granny Apple Green and Crushed Curry. I'm going to start by stamping the flower with Crushed Curry ink. Now this is for the flower centres, so I can overlap the images as long as the centres aren't covered, and I need 5. Then on a larger piece of basic white I can do the rest of my stamping. I'm going to start with 5 Poppy Parade flowers. The first one didn't turn out too well, so I'm going to ignore that. With the solid stamps you want to make sure they're well inked, and when you stamp them down you want to just hold them in place for an extra second or two to let the ink absorb. Next I'll stamp the leaves, and these will be in Granny Apple Green, and I need 2 for each flower, so 10 in total. I need 3 of the other little flower, and these are stamped in Crushed Curry. And then still in Crushed Curry I need 2 of the final stamp. This is the basic white mat that goes on the back of the card for writing your message, and I just want to stamp 2 Poppy Parade flowers, one in the top right and one in the bottom left corners. I'm stamping the sentiment on another scrap of basic white, and I'm going to use Memento Tuxedo black ink for this. I've gone ahead and cut out everything I need by hand. Now I've added mini dimensionals to the tips of all the leaves. The rest of the leaf will be glued flat, and this will give it some shape and dimension on the card. Now the Crushed Curry flowers, I've just added dimensionals on the flower heads, and again the stems will be glued flat to give it shape. The main flowers, I've just added a mini dimensional in the centre. Now I will add additional ones later on to fully support the flower, but I just want to place it and then be able to slide everything else underneath it easily. And then the little flower centres also have a tiny bit of dimensional on them. Now I've also gone ahead and punched using the bow punch some additional leaves and seed heads. The 4 leaves are in Granny Apple Green and the 6 seed heads are in Shaded Spruce. I've die cut the sentiment, and I used one of the dies from the Tasteful Labels set, this one. Now if you haven't got this set you can use any similar die, or you can just cut this by hand and flag cut each of the ends. I've also die cut a white plain circle and a Poppy Parade scallop circle, and I used the layering circle dies for this. The largest plain die for the white circle and the largest scallop die for the Poppy Parade circle. The white circle has also been embossed, and I used one of the Stripes and Splatters 3D embossing folders. You get 2 in a pack, one with stripes, one with splatters, and it's the bottom one that I used. I'm going to add some extra colour to the seed heads and leaves that I punched out. Now this will give them some dimension and it will stop them looking quite so flat. I'm going to use the dark Granny Apple Green and the dark Shaded Spruce Blends alcohol markers. Now 2 of the leaves I'm going to turn so they face the other direction, and I've done a similar thing for 3 of the little seed heads. So I've got 3 going one way, 3 going the other way. So starting with the leaves and dark Granny Apple Green Blends marker, I'm just going to add a little extra colour to each of the individual leaves and also the stem. And I'm not doing any blending or anything fancy, I'm just colouring it in. And then I'll use the dark Shaded Spruce with the seed heads, and I'm just doing a similar thing, colouring the bottom of each of the seed heads and the stem. And here is what they look like. I've gone ahead and added dimensionals onto the back of my sentiment strip. I've also added the centres to each of my Poppy Parade flowers. I've layered my white circle mat on top of my Poppy Parade mat, and I've added more dimensionals onto the reverse. And Belle's going to inspect everything thoroughly before we continue. I've layered up all my mats for the back panel. Now I can add it to the back of my card. So I'm just going to line up the right hand edge and the top. Now you do not want to add glue to this panel, as I fortunately realised before I went too far. You want to add it to the back of your card. So you can cover the whole thing and then place your back panel on top of it. Make sure you line up that top edge and the right hand side. And now your card should be able to stand so you can display it. All we have to do now is decorate the inside. I have 3 strips of the Pattern Party Designer Series paper here. Now my strips are all 3 7/8 of an inch wide. I like a border of a 1/16 of an inch all the way round. If you want wider borders, then just cut them to 3 3/4 inches wide instead. Now I've got 3 pieces because we're covering 3 panels here. It doesn't matter how long you make them, although they need to be at least 5 7/8 of an inch long, so you've got enough to cut your panels out of them. I found while doing my first card that it wasn't worth measuring and cutting. It's much better to have a strip longer than you need to cover all your panels, and then place it, mark it with a pencil and cut it. In doing this, I would also err on the side of caution. If you cut too much, there's no going back. But if you mark and don't cut enough off, you can always go back and cut more. So I'm placing my paper so the bottom and the sides are correct. I've got that 1/16 of an inch border. And then I'm going to mark with a pencil below the scored diagonal line where I think I need to cut it, so my angle and my gap will be as I want it. And then I can go and mark the right hand side as well. Then I can bring in my guillotine. You can use a trimmer, of course, if you prefer. I'm going to line up my pencil marks on the blade and then cut. Now I'm going to check my panel against my card and see if I need to take any more off, which I did. So I'll mark it and cut it again, and then I actually needed to do it a third time. Because of the placement of my camera, the lights, what have you, it's very difficult to see, to mark. So it took me 3 goes, this first panel. Now, because my pattern is a one-way design, these aren't random white dots on my paper, they're in rows. If I take anything off the side edge on this smaller piece, that will cause my pattern to misalign. So I can only take it off the diagonal. I think I can probably take it off the straight edge at the top, but I know if I take too much, that will misalign my pattern again. I prefer to take it off the diagonal, so I've marked it and I'm going to cut, and I know I'll have to cut more on this. Again, err on that side of caution. So I'll make my first cut and just check it again and see how much more I need to cut off. See, I'm checking my border and I'm checking the gap in between the two pieces. I'll mark it again and make my cut. Then I can check it again, make sure I'm completely happy before I move on to the next panel. I'm going to make a pencil mark on all the ends of the score lines again so I can better see them. To finish off the card, I have my sentiment and the panel I created earlier. Now I've got 2 flowers and 4 leaves, and these will go into the corners on the other 2 panels, keeping away from the scored lines. Then I have 2 of the punched leaves, 2 of the hand cut leaves, 2 seed heads and a flower to go on each of the diagonals. And that's my card complete. It's really pretty. I love it with the bright colours. Now when the card is folded, it will fit into one of our standard C6 envelopes if you're in Europe or Australia. But if you're in America or Canada and use 8.5 inch by 11 inch as your standard card, the card will be too big for your standard A2 envelopes. So, because the card is quite bulky anyway, I think it would be better to have a box to gift it in. Now this is my standard box for a 6x4 card. I've already got a video that shows you how to create it, and if you're interested in doing so, I'll leave a link at the top right of the screen under the eye. And this is a really nice box. It's got reinforced sides, so it's very sturdy. And it will hold the card perfectly, even with all its bulk. And here's another look at my original card. And I've created a box for this one too. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.